All right, so good evening, everybody. My name is Krista Dillabaugh, and I'm the director of the Morpho Institute, and I'd like to welcome you to our November webinar, part of our 2020 webinar series. And tonight's guest speaker is Kirsten Franklin. She's a teacher out in Petaluma, California, and Kirsten joined us in the Amazon as a participant of our Educator Academy several years ago, and then she returned with a team of teachers from her school district and has since returned a couple of other times to be a teacher leader with us. And when we're in the field during the Educator Academy, Kirsten takes the lead on working on infusing nature journaling into our programming and helping teachers make that connection back to the classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Kirsten to take it away. Thanks, Kirsten.
Hey, thank you, Krista. And happy to be here tonight and happy to see all of you, many of whom I've been with in the Amazon. So, hey, nice to see you. Thanks for coming. So she's already done a really nice introduction for me. So I don't know what else I need to say about myself other than maybe my experiences in the Amazon have really impacted what I do as a teacher in my classroom. I'm a fourth grade teacher, and I've since just become super passionate about trying to get my fourth graders outside as much as possible, doing as much science as we can, and place-based studies, and being down in the Amazon influenced that quite a bit, and all of the ideas and instruction and experiences that I've received from the faculty there and you all, I'm really appreciative of. So one of the things that I've been become passionate about is also nature journaling. So the slideshow tonight and what I share with you and hopefully what you share with all of us is, or what I share with you, I should say, is just where I am at now with doing nature journaling with kids and the resources that I'm using right now. And I know that there are tons of resources out there. So that hopefully is an opportunity for the rest of us towards the end of the slideshow to do some sharing about all the possibilities. So let's take it away here. So I think one of the things to think about is why do nature journaling in the first place? And that's an important question for teachers because we already have so much on our plate. So what are the reasons to do nature journaling and how can we integrate it? And what are the benefits to kids? So these ideas come from John Muir Laws, who really is the main resource that I'm accessing right now. This comes from his newest How to Teach Nature Journaling book that he co-wrote with Emily Ligren. And so, you know, the reasons to do nature journaling are just that opportunity to slow down, the externalized thinking, the benefits of drawing, so the sketching and the drawing that happens, that a lot of what we have kids do in nature journaling are transferable skills. And when I see transferable skills, I also think about the opportunities to integrate across the curriculum. And it's a thread to support the curriculum. So it's an activity that builds, especially in science. And then something that we all understand because we've been to the Amazon and we talk about there is that whole connection to awe. So wonder and awe. And nature journaling, especially in a place-based kind of way, gives people an opportunity to pay attention to what is around us. Now, of course, when you go other places like the Amazon, of course, there's lots of wonder and awe there. But most of us don't understand, and certainly my students don't understand what's really right outside the classroom or outside their own doors at home. So those are some good reasons. And then another piece that comes from the book, How to Teach Nature Journaling by John Muir Laws and Emily Ligren, is this intro. So another way of explaining it is, and if it's okay with you, I'll just read this to you, but I really like it because I think it sums up why do it in education in particular. So why nature journal? What place do pencil and paper have in an increasingly digital world? In classrooms and other learning environments, students engage with screens. And I gotta move this thing out of the way here, hang on. Students engage with screens more and more often, doing the admittedly important work of learning to navigate and communicate through modern technology. When there's so much to be learned through and about the digital sphere, why do we argue that a nature journal should be an essential part of education? There is no computer program that can replicate the excitement of seeing a squirrel up close, the surprise noticing an unexpected pattern in the arc of icicles, the calm of watching clouds go by, or the wonder of following an ant. These discoveries are opportunities for students to develop understanding of science as a process while learning how the world works. The sharp observation and heightened curiosity developed inherent to journaling are skills transferable other disciplines. That doesn't make sense. Anyway, a journal also promotes higher level reasoning, acting as a brain outside the brain, where students are able to push their thinking further by externalizing it. Notes become a record of students' observations, ideas, and experiences that can be used to weave a thread through their entire learning experience. And finally, the emphasis on drawing and visual thinking develops communication skills and creates opportunities for the inclusion of culturally and neurologically diverse students. So I just always really love reading that explanation and how it applies to what we do in the classroom. So Krista, are we allowed to ask people to unmute and say anything else? You know, can I ask people, do they have any other reasons why they think nature journaling is a good thing to do?
Yes, go for it. It's a small group tonight, so go for it.
All right, so just wondering if anybody else had some thoughts about rationale for doing nature journaling with your students.
I think English language learners really benefit greatly from this because it's an activity that accesses their knowledge without requiring them to have mastery of a language yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. Really good point. They can access this activity really well. Yeah, thank you.
I'm Seth Buddy, and I just did a nature journaling activity with some students, and there's an emotional piece as well and a connection to memory that came out really strongly in this last one I did with kids. One young woman said that a leaf she was drawing reminded her of her grandmother's skin, and then everyone in the class like just grew like, oh my God, that's what my grandmother's skin looks like. And so it was like this really beautiful moment. And I can't think of any other classroom activity that would bring up something like that.
Yeah, it really honors and acknowledges what students bring to the table, so that culturally relevant piece can be really nice, you know, to have that happen during those experiences. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Other reasons?
Yeah, I'm Kathy Law. I just finished a nature journaling project and just hand them all back, graded. It was really fun to see. I just wanted to underscore the whole observational piece of it, because what I was able to do besides having to do sketches, is actually conduct little specific labs of what to focus on and what activities to perform to better understand the intricacies of the nature around them. So having a journal can be actually very directive as to how to manage a children's awareness on a more deeper level, whatever topic you're doing, whether it's tracks or bird calls or feeding animals and watching their behavior, interactions, whatever it is. It sort of gives them a guideline to jump in deeper into what they can discover. It's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Nice, right. Thank you. I know you've done a lot of work with nature journaling, so please kick in at any other time in this webinar. Anybody else? Rationales for why? And I can just kind of quickly go back to these things right here. Any questions about these categories? I know for myself, I really like the aspect of slowing down in nature. I mean, you know, things are go, 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 busy, busy, busy. And I find that for students, giving them this opportunity with this particular activity gives them some practice with that ability to just slow down and be quiet for a while. For little ones, it takes a while to teach them that. It's hard to do. And I actually found that when distance learning kicked in last spring in March, that's when I was actually able to launch nature journaling in a more comprehensive way, because shepherding 30 kids outside and having them find some place to sit, you know, all the work that you really need to do to prepare them to be able to do that is tricky, you know, and there's so many distractions and whatnot. But having said all that, all those challenges, you know, if we can give, I feel, this is my personal opinion, if we can give kids that opportunity to see what it's like just to slow down and observe and record, it's almost a mindfulness activity as well. So I think that's really great. And then the externalized thinking piece of it is, you know, you're taking what you see, you're taking what you think inside the brain and putting it on paper. And then you got just the kinesthetic and drawing on all kinds of different learning modalities because of the drawing that goes on. And then, you know, there's all kinds of ways to integrate the math skills and science skills in there as well. And then, of course, I think the development of connection and awe is just so incredible and important. One of the things that I did personally over the summer, I was trying to practice some of the lessons that I put together that I wanted to do with my fourth graders. And I was out in my field and in a place where I didn't think much was going to happen. And I would go out there every day for a while at the same time, kind of look around. I was in this dry pond that was covered with willow trees and constant, you know, going through the different lessons that I had put in this sequence, and feeling a little bit frustrated at one point because I didn't know if I was really observing anything. But because I kept going out there, little by little, I started uncovering more. And at one point I looked down, and I wish I had, you know, taken a picture of or inserted one of my photos of this. I looked down and I saw these little grasses that were just growing there, and they were had seed pods on the end of them. And I looked at them and normally wouldn't pay much attention to them, but then looked closer. And inside these little grass seed heads were these little tiny webs with little tiny spiders in them. And I just remember feeling like, wow, that is amazing. You just don't know what's around you, and feeling such appreciation for that spot in my field now where, you know, before I didn't think it yielded much. So you just never know. Okay. So these are some of the other considerations for nature journaling. And, you know, you have the icon of the next generation science standards here, or, you know, any science practices that deal with looking at phenomena. Anytime you go out and you do nature journaling and you're looking at something, that's the phenomena right there. And capturing that phenomena on a journal page, John Muir Laws and other people, you know, advocate these 3 sentences as well, but having kids do that, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. So when you're capturing a phenomena and having students write what they notice, generate questions, what do they wonder, and what does it remind them of, like their grandmother's skin, that can all happen there. And when you're working with the phenomena of being outside in nature. And then trying to construct meaning. So what are you looking at? How does it work? Those questions that kids generate in their journal pages can lead to further investigation and acquiring more knowledge about the way something is working out in nature. And then I added this piece right here, an integrated art practice, because one of the trainings that I received this summer had to do with integrated art. And I found when I was learning about what that was about, I found that nature journaling actually fit in really well with that. And just really quickly, this is a slide from the draft California Arts Framework. And if you look at this graphic and these different circles with the topics in them, I think they overlap a lot with what we try to do in next generation science standards, and anything that's integrating observation and you know, trying to learn about what you're looking at. So you know, creating, making a plan, investigating. So nature journaling is involving investigating. And there's the analysis and presentations of, you know, what you found out with other people, and so on. But what I think what I'm most trying to get at with that is that the act of drawing in nature journals is an act of trying to construct meaning. So that artwork, even though it's not particularly artwork, is part of that process of constructing meaning. So I think it fits really well in with the idea of integrating arts across the curriculum. So it's not just to do art for art's sake, it's art that helps kids uncover more knowledge about something. And again, I think nature journaling fits in really well with that. So we did some nature journaling in the Amazon. So there was one year that I was down there where we took a morning session and we went out to, I believe it was Napo Lodge, and the pond out by the medicinal garden. So we took a group out there, and it was really, we did some preparation work and talked about why do nature journaling and how to set up nature journals and all of that sort of thing. And then took that group out there. I don't know if anybody was part of that group. And people picked their different spots around the pond. And it was just amazing to watch what happened. So as soon as you pick your spot, there's something to observe, there's something to notice, and the kinds of things that people were coming back with and sharing that they were watching, these little ecosystems and different creatures doing their thing. There was certainly no place like the Amazon to do some nature journaling. But this is what they went out with, was this document here, and I'll just scroll down. So some of the reasons for doing nature journaling that we just talked about. But we picked a smorgasbord, if you will, of different activities to do. And these are based on a lot of what John Muir Laws and Emily Lygren have in their book. But you find that sit spot, and there's some directions about what to do. So people had a menu of choices, and this is what they did when they went out. I believe that this document is still somewhere in the Educator Academy resources. So if it's something you want to check out, it is there. So if your sit spot, another idea is taking a sit spot and having a focus on the cross-cutting concepts. So how do we get kids to, or yourself, focus on patterns and scale and all kinds of the seven cross-cutting concepts right there. Zooming in and zooming out. So if you're observing something, you're drawing and sketching it and observing it from the bigger picture, and then doing another sketch where you're sketching it up close. Okay. And then just being in your sit spot and asking lots of questions. This one is going out and just really trying to focus on what's a phenomena, what is something happening out there that you're curious about, you don't understand, and processing it through your nature journal. Quantification, so doing any kinds of observations that ask you to count or estimate, measure. Okay, so that's where math is integrated really well with nature journaling. And comparing, so in your sit spot, finding two plants, two organisms and comparing them. Of course, animal observations, and then doing something like a BioBlitz or biodiversity inventories. And then there are different activities for recording bird sounds. And then just, if there's something else you want to do in your nature journal, go for it. So these were some of the activities that we were doing in the Amazon. And then, like we are tonight, just having discussions. How do we do it? Who's got good resources and whatnot. So let me get out.
Speaking of good resources, when we're done, can you shoot that document over to me again, and I'll make sure it's put front and center and not buried in the archives. And if anybody else, like Kathy Law, looking at you, if you have lesson plans or things written up that this group could benefit from, I'd love to be able to get my hands on those so I can at least send it out to the people that were on the webinar, and then maybe spotlight some of you as well. I think this is a really popular topic and critically important right now. So the more we can share and get this out, I think that'd be terrific. So thank you.
Yeah, no, there are tons of resources out there, and that's why I was prefacing that this is where I am right now, and these are the resources I've been using. So nature journaling in the classroom, coming back and in my classroom, I think I talked about the fact that it's a challenge. It's a challenge to teach younger students how to settle in. So we have to do a lot of preparatory work before we do that. And some of it involves learning how to draw and sketch and talk to kids about the fact that it's not about artwork, it's not about a pretty picture, it's about trying to draw a scientifically accurate sketch of what you're observing. So it's about that. You know, what is it like to go somewhere and sit still for a while and sit quietly and observe? So we do a lot of that preparation in the classroom first. And then this was last year. These are some of my fourth graders from last year. There was a series of lessons that I did when I was in the Amazon that previous summer that had to do with taking project learning tree lessons. And we had a focus on adopt a tree. And then what we did was we built some different series of lessons around that whole idea and tried to incorporate next generation science standards with modeling. So the practice of modeling. And in a nutshell, it was, let's adopt a tree. Let's make observations of it. So you can see down in the below here, that screen, that they're getting close to that tree and they're checking it out and drawing what they see. And then the next step was, and then I love this journal entry right here. This is one of my students doing the, you know, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of work. And then when we went out again, we took it to, we started working with a focus question. And the focus question was, how does the structures and the function, how does the structures on this tree that we've adopted help it survive? And so they drew a model and tried to construct explanations about how they thought the structures of that tree were helping it survive. And then we were working through different lessons from Project Learning Tree to give them the content. So there are different lessons in there that'll talk about the different parts of the tree and what they do. And some of you remember maybe Al doing the whole role playing, all the different parts, people playing the different parts of the tree and whatnot. And I'm blanking on the names of those lessons, but just all kinds of different ways to give them information about how this wonderful oak tree was probably living and thriving and surviving. And then each time they had a lesson and they gained more knowledge about how to answer that question, they would revise their model. And so that's what we were trying to go through. And then unfortunately, that's when pandemic first hit. So we only got so far. We didn't ever get to wrap up that unit, but that was one way of using our nature journal to help us address next generation science standards for fourth grade, which is structure and function, and then using the practice of modeling. So when the pandemic hit, then what? So we're not in school anymore. My sister and I co-teach with my sister. And she's also been down to the Amazon. She's been down there one time. We were trying to figure out, okay, how do we do this? How do we bring in science? And as I said earlier, it's difficult to bring kids out on a school campus and do that, young kids. But the nature journaling at home ended up working out really well. So we sent them their materials home and we gave them different prompts. And we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants at the time, for sure. Doing it as we went, picking out prompts, different prompts every week. But we found that the kids were doing a really good job. And what was nice was it was getting them outside. So there's always the concern with distance learning that, man, being on Zoom for hours and hours is really exhausting. It's hard to sit still for that long. It's hard to make it interactive without technology. So this series of assignments that we gave them to do nature journaling around their yards at home was really successful. It got them outside, which is healthy for them for a lot of different reasons. And they got to know their local environment better. And it also gave me the opportunity to do something I've been wanting to do for a really long time, but just never really got it launched. And that was the idea of students designing their own investigations and carrying them out, much like you would see in those bird investigator magazines. Yeah, I know that Phil's had students do reports, submit reports there. And then the other piece is I was really able to use the Cornell curriculum, investigating evidence finally. So the nature journaling got them settled, oriented, really familiar with wherever they chose to pick a sit spot. And that was a big part of this process. You've got to have a sit spot, your place that you want to sit and really get to know intimately and do your nature journaling. But that's also where they conducted some kind of investigation. So distance learning gave me a little gem that way, you know, to really be able to launch a certain kind of set of activities, learning sequence that I've been wanting to do for a long time, but hadn't found a way to pull it off at school. So they went through all of these different prompts and experiences with making entries in their nature journals. And then we led them through, all right, now you're going to set up an investigation. And a big chunk of it, again, like I said, was using the investigating evidence curriculum. This is, what I'm going to show you right now is one of the final projects from one of my students. So I'll share this with you. And again, we were doing this by the seat of our pants, but we were really pleased with what the kids did.
If I take down my bird feeder, will there be more or less birds? To start this investigation, I needed to gather some materials. The materials. One iPad with the Notes app, and a bird feeder that wasn't there. Now I was able to record the data that I found. But how? The process. First, I needed to gather data about how many birds are coming when the feeder is there. So for 3 days, I left the bird feeder right where it was, and for 15 minutes each day, I sat and counted how many birds came into my backyard. After recording my data with the bird feeder, I needed to record the data without the bird feeder. The data. On day 1, I saw 3 birds with the feeder. On day 2, I saw 0 birds with the feeder. And on day 3, I saw 0 birds with the feeder also. And on day 4, I saw 5 birds without the feeder. And on day 5, I saw 1 bird without the feeder. And on day 6, I saw 1 bird without the feeder. My hypothesis. My hypothesis is that more birds will come when the feeder is up. Conclusions and further questions. The conclusion I have come to is that even though the feeder is not up, birds still come. Some further questions are, why did more birds come when the feeder was down? And if I could do this for a longer amount of time, what change would we see in the data? Thank you for watching.
Okay, that was Grayson last year. And again, he didn't get a whole lot of structure. That was something he came up with on his own, which I thought turned out pretty well considering the circumstances that we were in. Okay. So from that experience last spring, my sister and I thought, okay, we're happy with how the kids did, and we see a lot of potential. So how can we refine this and put this together in a sequence for this year's students? So we wrote up this particular lesson sequence, and it is on where is it, Krista? I know that I offered it on our
Yeah, we have a
Morpho Institute site. It's somewhere on the Morpho Institute site.
Yeah, we have a a curriculum warehouse basically that everybody has access to. And we did some reorganizing of that this summer, and I will go back and check and make sure this is in there. And I'll send that link out so that you can add things directly to that folder if anybody else has activities or resources they want to share.
Okay, great, thank you. And we were gearing this towards probably 4th through 8th grade. And I think, you know, like a lot of things, it's probably adaptable to higher as well as lower grades. But the beginning of it, this took us a long time to put together too, surprisingly, but we curated a lot of resources and then tried to put it in a sequence that would give kids time to learn how to observe, because you got to teach them about the power of observation, and it can be a taught skill, and then some practice with sketching, and then moved it on from there. So this beginning part was just, you know, a little story about, you know, what happened with us last spring and why we wanted to put it into this learning sequence, and the rationale, you know, for doing some more reasons for doing nature journaling. So there's research out there that says school performance increases when children learn outdoors. It's healthy, supports their development. It's fun, and I can attest to this. They love learning outside. We always get a lot of good feedback about that. And then the whole concept of learning outdoors, helping them develop a sense of place, you know, and caring about their environment. And the potential for engaging the community is huge too. I know that that group last spring, a lot of the families got involved, the parents got involved in doing nature journaling as well too. So it became a family event. It's got some of the resources that we've used, and what to prepare ahead of time in terms of nature journals and portfolios, things like that. There's a pre-unit survey, so what do kids know about nature journaling, or just even, you know, how do they feel about being outside? Not everybody likes to be outside. So, and then just starting off, what do scientists do? Here's the introduction to nature journaling. A lot of the activities are pulled from John Muir Laws and Emily Ligren's How to Teach Nature Journaling book. So here are the specific lessons. And then we made slideshows. So we put it together so that you could deliver a slideshow and teach kids through distance learning. And so that's kind of what it looks like. So this part is setting up your sit spot and your sit spot investigations. These are the different journal prompts, and so it tells you which page that you would be going to and whatnot. And now that I look at this whole document, I think, well, it doesn't really look very long, doesn't look like very much, but there's a lot in terms of the prompts and the slideshows that help you teach the process. And where it ends up is having them design their own investigation in that sit spot that they've spent some time in doing nature journaling. So we wanted to start doing this in the fall with our current class. And then I live in California, in the North Bay, and we had the earliest onslaught of wildfires this year. It started in August, which is about the time that we start school as well. So we've not been able to get this off the ground because we didn't have the opportunity to have the kids go outside the way we would like them to when they actually do this unit. So we're probably looking towards the spring, when we will try it out and give it a go. And if anybody else wants to check it out and see how it goes and give us some feedback, and we can continue tweaking and refining this process. But just based on what I saw, based on my experiences in the Amazon, and my desire to get kids to really understand the environment, their local environment around them, I really feel like this is a good thing to do with kids. We got really good feedback from them. I think it's good for them in so many ways, besides, you know, outside of the academic standards that we can cover at the same time as well. So we've had a good time with that, and I'm looking forward to being able to do this with my students in the spring. Let me pop out of here for a second and then go back into the slideshow. I know there's probably a better way to do it, but here we go. Oh, didn't do it. Hang on. And then I get this click to full exits, so that's confusing to me. Sorry about that, I'll get there. Nope, you want to see my parent conferences. Anybody know what I'm doing or not doing? back to that. Do you know what that is, Krista? The click to exit full screen. Let's see.
No, I don't.
It happened last time, but I was able to maneuver out of it, and I'm not sure what I did.
Were you presenting from Google Drive or Google Slides?
Here we go. Never mind. I got it. Now I just need to go to present. Almost there. Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for your patience. These are some of the resources that are in that unit. So you've got Beetles. I don't know if you know about Beetles yet, but they're an amazing resource out of the Lawrence Hall of Science here in the East Bay. And they do a lot of work around field study work with kids and getting kids outside. So it's an amazing resource for teachers, and they write up really beautiful lessons that are strongly connected to next generation science standards. And they even at the end of these lessons give you this cheat sheet that you can put on a clipboard and bring out with you, so you're good to go. And then we used resources from the California Academy of Sciences. There's a ton of information about how to set up notebooks and do nature journaling. And then of course the one by John Muir Laws and Emily Ligren. This is Investigating Evidence by Cornell Ornithology Lab. So I was really happy to be able to finally tap into that. That was really helpful for me to set up the kids designing their own investigations. And then, yeah, we started using the Seek app with the kids. So all our students have iPads, and they had the Seek app, and that was really useful for sending them outside around their homes. Just go, find out what plants and animals and whatnot are in your home environment. So I recommend all of those. And then I took a screenshot of an email that Krista sent us recently. And we were just talking about this before the webinar got going, that John Muir Laws seems to be on fire in terms of what kinds of resources he's offering for teachers. So this is the top part of that email. This looks really good, these Nature Journal Connection video series. I haven't looked into it yet, but you might want to check back on your emails and pull that up again if you are re-inspired to start looking at nature and journaling again. Really recommend that, and I will be doing the same myself probably over the Thanksgiving break. So that's what's happened for me. Again, circling back to my experiences in the Amazon, just being in that place of awe and wonder, and wondering how do I bring these kinds of experiences back to my own students. And nature journaling has been something that I've become very passionate about, because I feel like it's something they can do. And there's so many benefits to it, and so many ways that it can help you cover the standards that you're trying to cover in any given curriculum, not just science. And there's all kinds of things that it can do. And these are the resources that I'm using right now, and the lesson sequence that I hope to be using in the spring myself. So I just want to open it up to questions and answers. I don't know that I will have all the answers, so I'm hoping that we can kick in and help each other out with that, and maybe do some sharing and discussion. Some of you have already shared some amazing experiences already so far. So I'll open it up to you.
Hi, Kirsten, it's Christy.
Hey, how are you?
And everybody else. I did nature journaling with my students through 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. And the way we would start outside would be to take a nature minute, where everyone had to close their eyes, nobody could talk, and they just had to observe with their hearing, what was going on around them. And I would tell them it was a minute, and sometimes we went for like 3 or 4 minutes and nobody would talk. They just listened. It was the most calming time for me.
Yeah.
That was just an easy way to just work into having to observe and be quiet and things like that. So
that's a great idea, and good for you, that that moment of quiet, or a few minutes of quiet with kids. They need to practice it. They don't know. Yeah,
they don't, and they're so used to wanting to talk and wanting to share, but this is a time to not talk and share that way. And then the year I got back from the Amazon, we were sitting in our garden, And I mean, these amazing things were going on. We were seeing different insects and they were crawling and we were watching and everything. And they're like, Miss Paulson, Miss Paulson. I'm like, shh, shh. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, shh. They're like, it's a hummingbird right beside us. And I'm like, oh, okay. So pretty fun.
And that's really, yeah, I know for myself when I start, and again, it happened in the Amazon, but that whole experience of just paying attention. And I felt like I was doing more of that when I got home. And then my students too, they start doing it more and more and more. And it's a really wonderful thing to see. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Questions?
Kirsten, hi there. It's Jessica. Nice, great program. Thank you. And my question is how I did it with my college students, and a lot of them said they're not artists. And I realized after your thing, I really need to be more intentional and tell them this is scientifically accurate. A lot of them just drew kind of trees with round, and they just look like a quick drawings. So how do you really kind of get over the, you don't have to be an art. I mean, you don't have to feel like you're an artist, and that it's really how do you model the doing more detailed drawings?
So in that sequence, and I believe it came from the Academy of Sciences, there are a series of drawing sketch lessons, and I know John Muir Laws has it as well too. So if you're approaching it as a lesson on how to draw, do some front loading and give them some skills. I think that can help a lot of students right there. And then using magnifiers and giving them different objects to look up close, and they're just focusing on what they see up close. That zoom in part, I think, can kind of take away that whole idea that something is supposed to be, a perfect piece of art. Little ones too, we have to really steer them away from making things bright pink and putting the bright sun in the corner with a smiley face. And there's some work and time that has to be taken to focus on scientific drawings. But I think it's just practice. It's just practice.
Yeah, thank you. That's I agree. I think modeling and maybe showing examples and practice. And I called the assignment more green time and less screen time, because I just wanted them to get outdoors. But I think thank you. I'm really going to be more but you said front loaded or whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I like that title that you had for the lesson. That's great. Okay. Any other experiences? Yeah.
Hi, Kirsten. It's Megan. I just want to echo experience with her college students I had with my high school students. Mm-hmm. So I think that this is such a powerful activity to do with everyone, any age group. And my kids also were very nervous about not drawing well. So we did do here are some basic shapes and how to do some basic shapes. Mm-hmm. And reiterated that nature is not perfect either. So their drawing doesn't need to be perfect. But we had such a good time. They did not want to stop. We would do 10-minute blocks with no phones. I had their phones. And so 10-minute blocks, and they didn't want to quit. After 10 minutes, they called me a liar that it had been 10 minutes because they wanted to keep going. So such a powerful moment for anybody, any background, any age. It's just such a great thing to do, to stop and to observe.
Yeah, and the connection I think that you're able to make to whatever it is you're observing. So one of the initial lessons that's teaching kids how to be aware of observation, that you can be intentional about it, and it's a skill that you can develop, is one of their very first ones called I Notice, I Wonder, It Reminds Me Of. And their classic lesson is you start off with a leaf and you're looking at this leaf and just saying out loud, I notice, whatever it is that you notice, and, sharing that with a partner, and then going through the I wonder. So generating all those questions out loud. I wonder, I wonder, I wonder, I wonder, And then the third part is it reminds me of. And that simple act of really observing closely and saying, your thoughts out loud really connects you to that leaf. And I know for myself, when I first went through that lesson, I didn't want to drop my leaf. You just, I've become so connected and close to this leaf that I don't want to give it up. And other people have said that too, and I've seen kids do that too. So that's pretty powerful, you know, by just intentionally observing something for a while and making that connection. Just I think that it's so important to give my students those kinds of experiences, because if they care about what's around them, then perhaps they're going to be the ones who are making decisions that help the planet. Anybody else?
Yeah, it's Krista. One of the books I'm working my way through slowly, interestingly, is called Slow Looking, the art and practice of learning through observation. And it's not a big volume, but it's a really rich one. It's a kind of a nice combination of practical things you can do with students to help them slow down and look at things. And there's actual exercise in it, but it also provides a lot of the pedagogy and the psychology behind this practice. I know that for me, my mother is an art teacher, artist, and I'm very reluctant to draw and put myself out there on a piece of paper. And this book is helping because it takes away the need to be an artist or feel like if I was a teacher, feeling like I needed to teach kids how to be an artist. You know, chances are you're not an art teacher, but you are an inquiry-minded teacher. So I think this conversation is so fascinating. And what my question to everybody is, are you practicing this yourselves as educators? And if so, what have you found that benefit to be? And or what barriers do you have to accessing it yourself? I'm just really curious about that.
Those are great questions.
This is Seth Buddy again. I'll speak up and just also, I try to, when I've done this with students, I've tried to really get away from the art, but also sort of trick them into doing art as well at the same time. The person who taught me about nature journaling, his wife was an art teacher, and she taught me this technique called the blind contour technique. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it as well. And that is a great way if you do it as a group and then you show it around, there's no expectation that anyone's going to have anything even remotely resembling the thing. And that is a great icebreaker. But as this art teacher explained to me, that technique also helps not only focus on the thing for real, because you're just looking at it for a long time, even if it's just the contour, but it also does something where it helps fuse your pencil, your fingertip, your arm, your brain, your eye to the thing. And that one tip of the blind contour somehow makes people better artists. It like helps coordinate all those things. And if they do it a lot, people find themselves just having better coordination and being a better artist. So I always start with a blind contour when I'm teaching the kids for all those reasons I just said.
Yeah. I have done those lessons before, and I completely agree with you as far as the effects and what it does. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Just another, I don't know if this is helpful, but one of the things we tell kids too when they're sketching, it's the ABCDE, you know, when you're sketching something scientifically. So A stands for accurate, B stands for big, because sometimes, you know, kids make little tiny pictures in the left-hand corner. So A, accurate, B, big, C, colorful, D, details. So that's where that observation comes in. And E would be explanation. So labels, or, you know, or the I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of kinds of phrases. So A, B, C, D, E can be a really helpful thing to teach the kids or be mindful of when they're making their sketches. And then I have to say too, some of my own personal nature journals, to get back to Krista's question, is for me personally, I don't always draw. A lot of times I'm just tally marking something, or I'm paying attention to noises that I hear and mapping things and tally marking things and doing a lot of quantifying. So a lot of times I don't even draw. So. Anybody else? Are you doing some nature journaling yourself? How's that going?
Hi, I've been doing some journaling when I get a chance, like sitting in my backyard, and it's incredibly slow. I find that like I can sit there for 45 minutes, an hour, and still feel like I'm not done. How do you, I've been trying to use the concept of, I think it's called wabi-sabi, the idea that like nothing is perfect, nothing is done, nothing is ever permanent. So like, I've been trying to instill that in students when they get stuck on things. And I'm wondering like, how do you help them through that moment? Like where Megan said that, you know, it's not really 10 minutes. We need more time. We need more time.
Anybody have thoughts on that? So Jordan, it sounds, it's sort of like having them just be in the process and enjoy the process. So is that part of the question? And then another part of the question is, how do you give them more time? I'm not.
Well, I guess like, you know, you're necessarily time limited. Like I find that I guess I'm using my own experience as sort of a marker of like what I know my students are experiencing. You know, I can go at it for a long time and I'm fine. And, you know, they have like that trouble of like getting started and sitting down and like doing the thing, getting into it. And then all of a sudden time's up. And, you know, how do you make sure that they are not feeling like failures? You know, like they walk away and all they've got a picture of is like a few like lines on the paper, and it doesn't really look like the thing, but in reality, like they've done something.
So they didn't get to what they think should be an end product somehow in the time.
Right.
Yeah. Anybody have some thoughts about that?
I think I could speak to that a little bit.
Go for it.
But I do this with college students, so it'd be a little bit different. But they still have the same fears, and maybe more so. Somebody else spoke about that fear with these higher ed kids. But what I like to do is, first of all, model something for them where I'm basically doing it quickly, and then they see that mine's just, you know, it's not perfect. But then I also give them like certain prompts. Like, these are the things that you're looking for in this particular 5 minutes. And kind of just putting some parameters. Otherwise, yeah, it is a little bit overwhelming when they're first starting out. But just something I noticed.
I think that's a really good point. So if you think about your prompts and give them something that's more intentional, I don't know if you were, that's what happens with Jordan. You probably do have specific things that you want kids to look at, but we have found out, or I have found that if it's too open, then it is hard for them to get started or hard for them to know what to do. So that is something that I've learned maybe the hard way over time. And I try and be specific about what I want them to go out and do each time. And I think that will lend itself to eventually kids being able to make their own decisions about what they want to nature journal on.
I think Kirsten's initial comments and Kathy reflected that, and then to follow up on Jordan's question and Rose's comment on the idea that providing sort of manageable entry points into this that are a little bit more finite, and practicing, this book I mentioned, the art of the slow looking, has some strategies for doing that, and it's not art-based at all. It's exercises in how to slow down and look, and these can be 5-10 minute exercises that have a beginning and an end, and then there's a component where the kids come together, the group comes together to share this common thing they've been looking at, and it dives into how everybody sees things differently, and it opens up this big new conversation about, well, I saw this and I saw that, and it allows sort of more of an expansive view of things, but it's still within a chunk of time that's finite. And I know when I first started attempting to do this with students, I was way too open-ended. I didn't know what I was doing either, and certainly didn't have access to all of these resources. So I think Kathy's going to share some of her work with us, and maybe some more specific things. The list that Kirsten had of what they did in the Amazon around the medicinal plant garden pond, there's some very specific exercises in there that could be chunked out and used as well that I think might be a really good starting point. I'm reflecting back on this now, thinking to myself, well, I should have taken each one of those exercises and done them this summer when I was trying to get myself into nature journaling. Let's keep this conversation going. What I will do, we're gonna wrap it up because I know everybody's very busy and we do try to honor the hour webinar time frame on this. But I will follow up with an email with the list of all the links that are in the chat. If anybody else has resources, please send them my way. Dump them in a Google folder and send me the link so I can pull them down, or send them to me via email. And then I'll get those back out to you. It's a slow process in some respects because Kelly, Nancy, and I are an all-volunteer team, and I take on most of the sort of behind-the-scenes organizing things. And it's a fairly big job. So it may take a little while to get this put in some public space where everybody that was not on the webinar can view it, but that's what we're driving towards. So we want to be a repository for all these great ideas and be able to be a resource-rich space for this community. And one of the ways that's going to happen is through contributions from people like you, like the PBS NewsHour ad. We can't do this without you. So one of the ways that you can give to the Morpho Institute is that kind of work. It's sharing of ideas and resources, et cetera. So please don't be shy about that. We all just have amazing stories to share and resources to share. And we're trying to figure out how to be the best vehicle for that. So Kirsten, as always, thank you very much. Just such a professional and thoughtful and wonderful presentation. And thanks for everybody for spending an hour of your week with us. Happiest of Thanksgivings to all of you. I hope everyone is staying healthy, and your families and those near and dear to you are staying happy and healthy. Hope that the holidays will not be too big of a challenge. And we will eventually get all through this, and hopefully we can all reunite in the Amazon sometime soon. But in the meantime, we'll keep these monthly webinars going so we can try to do it virtually. And stay tuned for hopefully some exciting announcements about what's coming ahead in 2021 with Morpho. So be well, everybody, and we will see you in. December is monkeying around in the Amazon with Katie Filan. We're going to do a deep dive into primates. So get your monkey on December 17th. Look for the email. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Krista. Thank you. Thank you, Kirsten.